all the technical teams. Welcome to the Electoral Commission. Another afternoon after a very busy voter registration weekend. Definitely, thank you so much for the support. We're all on the field, we're all on the ground, joining this press briefing this afternoon. I'm with the Chief Electoral Officer, Mr. Simon Mabulo, sitting next to me on my right, next to CEO. I'm with a Commissioner of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Nomsa Masuku, and next to me, I'm sitting with James on my left, a Manager for Electoral Matters. Certainly an excellent afternoon, CEO. Tell us why we must be happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. The Electoral Commission extends its gratitude to the millions of South Africans who heeded the call to use the registration weekend to register for the forthcoming national and provincial elections. The two registration weekends have given the country a growth of 1.2 million on the voters' roll. Following these two registration drives, the voters' roll now stands at 27.4 million. Regarding the past registration weekend, over 2 million citizens interacted with the Commission by either visiting the voting stations or using the online registration portal. The interactions range from applying for registration as new voters or updating registration details in the case of those who are already on the voters' roll. Of the 2 million transactions recorded this past weekend, 457,000 or 22% were new entrants to the voters' roll. A total of 1.6 million or 88% updated their registration details. This is in line with the message that a voter must register and vote in the voting district where they reside, unless they notify the Commission of an intention to vote elsewhere. The applications at voting stations totaled 1.8 million, whereas the online applications gave us a total yield of 240,000. In terms of the overall provincial outcomes, KwaZulu-Natal recorded 510,000 transactions, Gauteng 450,000 transactions, and in the third place is the Eastern Cape at 305,000 transactions. Regarding new registrations, 77% are young persons under the age of 29 entering the voters' roll for the first time. New registrations for young persons stands at 352,000. Again, KwaZulu-Natal leads with young persons registration at 103,000, followed by Gauteng at 82,000, and in the third place again is the Eastern Cape at 43,000. The gender split of the new registration is on this occasion evenly split, with female registrations accounting for 233,000, which is 51%, and the male new registrations accounting for 224,000, representing 49%. As indicated, the voters' roll now stands at 27.4 million. Gauteng remains the province with the biggest voting population at 6.4 million, followed by KwaZulu-Natal at 5.7 million, and in the third place is the Eastern Cape at 3.4 million. The age category 20 to 29, which is essentially young persons, at 4.3 million now represents 48% measured against the voting age population in that age category. So there's been an important reversal of the historic underrepresentation of young persons. So at least there's been great strides made to ameliorate the historical underrepresentation of young persons in that age category. The online registration portal has greater usage in the provinces of Gauteng at 99,000, followed by KwaZulu-Natal, 43,000, and the Western Cape at 33,000. Young persons under the age of 29 account for 47% usage of the online registration portal. Females are more likely to use the online portal than males do at 58% or 139,000. With the 2 registration weekend under its belt, the Commission now turns its focus to ramping up preparations for the 2024 elections. The next phase of the electoral program includes these important milestones. The Commission is firstly calling for submissions from interested parties on the distribution of the 200 regional seats of the National Assembly. The period for public submissions closes on the 20th of February this year. The Commission will consider the submissions and representations together with voter population data in each region to determine the spread of these 200 regional seats. This work is an important precursor to candidate nomination, as it will enable political parties to know how many candidates they may field in each respective region to national list. The number of candidates on a list may not exceed available seats on any election segment. Furthermore, following public consultation, the Commission has now determined the quantum of election deposits for those political parties and independents who intend to contest the forthcoming elections. The determined deposits are as follows. A political party that contests the compensatory seats in the National Assembly and in all the 9 regions will need to deposit an amount of 300,000. Furthermore, a political party will have to deposit 50,000 for each of the provincial legislatures. A political party that contests the compensatory seats in the National Assembly and in at least 1 region will deposit 225,000 and 25,000 rands for each additional region. Importantly, independent candidates will deposit 20,000 for each region they wish to contest, and 15,000 for the province, 15,000 for the election of a provincial legislature. Deposits are refunded to parties and independent representatives that win a seat in a legislative assembly. The Commission will also imminently publish its determination of the number of seats in each provincial legislature. The determination also follows a period of public consultation and representations by interested parties, as well as data related to population in each province. The Electoral Commission is pleased to announce that a portal to capture signatures supporting nomination to contest the elections is now available for use by unrepresented parties and independent candidates. Independent candidates must be supported by 1,000 voters in a region or province in which they intend to stand. Unrepresented parties, on the other hand, must be endorsed by the equivalent of 15% of the quota of votes per seat in the previous election for the region or provincial legislature they intend to contest. We remind those voters who are still not registered to go online or visit the offices of the Electoral Commission in municipalities to register. Registration will remain open until the proclamation of the election date. The Commission reminds eligible voters of the general rule in elections. That is, a person votes at the voting station where they are registered. The only exception to the general rule is that a voter may vote outside of the voting district of registration upon notification to the Commission by a date to be provided and regulated in terms of the election timetable. Details of the modalities of notification will be outlined in the not too distant future. We remind the nation to use our SMS 32810 line to check their registration status. Our contact center at 0800 11 8000 remains available for a basket of assistance to register and to check one's registration status. Our WhatsApp line 0600 88 000 is also available to assist voters with election information. It's your democracy, own it, and we close.
Thank you so much, CEO. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Introduce yourself and the media house you come from. For any questions of clarity or any issues, I see a hand up. Let's start from the top of the table and go down that way, and then we'll start from this corner. Let's proceed with the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Busi Chimombe from the SABC. Just a quick one. I wanted to find out, are there any issues that have been raised to you by political parties or anybody else, or has it been a thumbs up all the way in terms of this registration weekend? And the second is that we hear that the president is going to be confirming the date on which the elections are going to be running during his SONA speech. In other words, does that mean that you have finished your consultations with him?
Slindalo Masangana from ENCA. Just a point of clarity with regard to the online registrations when it comes to the issues of the missions that are still closed in conflict zones. Is there an update in terms of whether or not there is a solution for how South Africans there who are registered are going to be able to vote? And were there any issues that were picked up over this registration weekend? Did any stations have to close or any protest action anywhere that was flagged to the IEC? Thanks.
Is there any other third hand that I'm missing? Yes.
Yes, Katlego Sohota from Kaya 959. I'd just like to ask, in terms of voter education, what programs are currently underway? We do know that it's a politics season, so each and every party frames the process, the voting and the electoral process in their own way that can sometimes be misguided or sometimes implies certain things and gets people confused. Just in terms of your voter education programs, what are those looking like?
Thank you very much. Slindelo, you wanted to do a follow-up?
Yes, just one more to pick up on Kataho's question. Are there any consequences for misinformation or disinformation by political parties when it comes to the registration process or the electoral process as a whole? Thanks.
Let me take the last one and then we'll respond to this current batch of questions. Thank you.
So hi, Lerato Mutila from the Daily Maverick. I just want to jump onto both their questions, just to ask in terms of, are there any consequences beyond misinformation and disinformation for acts of misconduct, calling for violence or threatening for violence during the election season and in the build up to the elections? And what would those consequences be?
Thank you so much. Let me allow the CEO to deal with those issues and then we'll take it from there. Thank you so much.
The registration weekend proceeded without significant glitches. Obviously, when you have a program that deals with 23,000 service points, there'll be an incident here and there, but not weighty enough or substantive enough to warrant further action on our side. So our message is that the second registration weekend was very successful, both in terms of the numbers that we are outlining here this afternoon, as well as in terms of the logistical performance of the Commission. So we are quite happy with the overall outcome of the registration weekend. The Commission indeed has had consultations with the President, and those are nearing completion. Now, voter education. There are a number of programs that are currently underway. We do have democracy education facilitators on the ground, over 3,000 of them across the country, whose task is to engage communities to provide electoral education. Of course, the education itself has phases. We were in the registration phase, and the educational content related to the registration process. Now that we are about to conclude that phase of the election program, we will be moving more into voter education and subsequently balloting education. So that's one area. The second area of our voter education campaign, it's the animations that we are using on our online platforms to show people how many ballots there are going to be in this election, how to mark those ballots, and related things. So that's an important intervention in our view, because the young persons who are coming on the voters' roll for the first time needs to be given the information about the technical and correct manner in which to mark a ballot. The third leg of our education endeavor relates to work on campuses, TVET colleges, tertiary institutions in their broad sense. We've been doing activations within campuses since the beginning of the year, and that will continue. Then we have the Schools Democracy Week, which we give focus in the month of April, where we go to schools to give education to young persons, the learners, and to register them if they have identity documents. And of course, we do partner with the Department of Home Affairs to maximize on them having identity documents. Now, let's say the following things regarding the matters related to the climate in which an elections happen. In the Electoral Act, there are prohibited conduct, and false information that is propagated constitute a transgression of the prohibited conduct. And such transgressions are in fact criminal offenses. So persons who perpetrate this and misinformation, distributing false information about elections and so on, once the matter is investigated by the agencies in society entrusted with investigations can be tried, and upon conviction sentenced to terms of imprisonment of between 5 and 10 years. The second aspect that we want to indicate is that we formed a partnership with social media platforms, because we do appreciate the fact that a lot of this information is propagated on social media. And in terms of that partnership, there's Real 411, where we are partnering with the Media Monitoring Africa, where instances of disinformation can be reported. They'll be evaluated by a professional committee. And if found that that complaint is a meritorious complaint insofar as the matter relates to disinformation, a number of actions may be taken. Firstly, we may ask the relevant social media platform to do a takedown. We can ask them to issue a warning, of course, depending on the gravity of the disinformation at hand. But once the electoral code of conduct comes into force, which it will when the election date is proclaimed, then some of these acts of disinformation would also fall foul of the electoral code of conduct, in which case the jurisdiction of the electoral court is engaged. But that relates specifically to candidates and political parties. And candidates may be removed. A party may be debarred from participating in the election if it can be proved that the perpetration of the alleged disinformation is at the instance of that party. So you can see that the sanctions, which are at the behest of the Electoral Court, are quite severe. So really, as the Commission, we want to call upon all role players, supporters of parties, the leadership of political parties, and so on, to exercise restraint, to be careful about the statements they utter, especially in circumstances where such statements are not grounded in fact. Because if you have any factual basis to make an assertion, then bring those facts before the Commission. If they pertain to the conduct of an officer of the Commission, bring those to the attention of the Commission. And similarly, if they pertain to the conduct of the Commissioner, the Electoral Court is competent to act in that regard. So take that complaint to the Electoral Court. Don't take a public platform and poison the atmosphere in which the election is going to be taking place. That is anti-democratic, and is not in the best interest of a democratic society such as ours.
Thank you so much, CEO. May I take the last round of questions
No, there are
for
none.
this afternoon? I saw a hand already. All right, let's take the last round and then we'll be wrapping up, CEO. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm Khawalo Magoleo with Newsnote. On the question of misinformation, does the IEC, is it in a position to do something about it if political parties deliberately peddle misinformation? I saw an example over the weekend where the DA was saying they are leading the ANC in terms of voter registration, whatever that means. I tried to look it up. I don't understand what it means. So is the IEC able to act where a party deliberately misrepresent, claim early victory only for the commission to announce a different candidate? And secondly, regarding the registration numbers, is the commission convinced that political parties are doing their part in getting out the vote, particularly since they stand to gain the most from an increased voter population? Thank you.
Looks like the last hand.
Just to follow up, I see in the statement that we only have a breakdown, I think, of Gauteng, KZN, and the Eastern Cape. Can we get a full breakdown of each of the provinces, if I'm not mistaken? And then also the Gauteng figures, or the figures in total, do they also include the online registrations as well? And a follow-up on my colleague's question, has a complaint been laid with the IEC with regards to the particular poster that he's referring to from the Democratic Alliance? Thanks.
Okay.
I've covered all the questions. Let's the CEO respond.
Well, are parties doing enough? I think parties really have given their best shot to ensure that as many persons were registered. Obviously, one cannot say the effort is the same across the political spectrum, but I think it will be a misrepresentation to say parties were not pushing. I think they gave a good push, and the Commission appreciates those efforts. The registration breakdown, I think that will be supplied to yourselves. We're dealing with the top three in the statement. The balance of the thing will be available. Has there been a complaint laid in relation to the comments of the Democratic Alliance? No. There's not been such a complaint lodged formally with the Commission. Of course, we do have the Office for Electoral Offences that evaluates complaints such as those. And I think we also need to be careful as a country that we distinguish between disinformation and a robust campaigning, because sometimes between those two, there appears to be some confusion. But of course, once again, we really call upon leaders to be careful with the statements they make, and not end up being investigated by the Office of Electoral Offences for statements that may be perceived or that may in fact be violating of prohibited conduct or even the Electoral Code of Conduct when it takes effect upon the proclamation of the election date.
CEO, the last one from my platform, from Mbegezeli Mazibugo. May you kindly clarify on the point of representation of political parties at Parliament? Clarify on the point of representation of political parties. Registration. Can you confirm the question, please, Pilate, from your side?
May you kindly clarify on the point of registration of political parties at the Parliament?
How they should register?
I don't know. How do parties register at Parliament? I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is that to contest an election, you have to be registered with the Electoral Commission. To register to participate in an election, you, as a political party, you have to be first registered with the Commission. We have 359 such parties registered on a national level. Now, when an election is called, you will be required to submit your list of candidates and pay the prescribed deposits that I've outlined in the statement. If you are an unrepresented party, you have to also submit signatures. And that then, and if you qualify, if you've met those requirements, that entitles you to be on the ballot paper. On election day, depending on how well you do, a quota of votes per seat will be determined for each region, and by region read province. And if you have the number of votes equal to the quota, then you get one seat in the National Assembly. Similarly, if you are a political party, you'll be participating in the compensatory tier of the election, and a quota of votes per seat in that tier will also be determined. And if you meet that quota on that tier, you'll also be awarded a seat. So that's how you gain representation in the National Assembly. If your votes are equivalent or more than the quota of votes per seat in the respective legislature.
CEO, on that note, okay, Dr. Masuku.
Or you want to come first?
No, I'm cool. I'm cool. Yeah. Thank you very much. I just thought maybe I would add something on the issue raised on the DA matter. I think what needs to be clarified is that when a person applies for registration, they register to be on the voters' roll. You don't register to vote, you don't register for a particular political party. So when you make a claim that, you can't make a claim that people who have registered, there's a differentiation between political parties on the basis of registration, because that determination is actually made in the ballot booth. So I think it is important to clarify that, that it is a bit of a stretching the truth. And I think that is what the gentleman was getting to. I thought I'd clarify that. You simply register to be on the voters' roll. And when you're in the ballot booth, you can choose to marry whoever you want to marry. You've got loads of candidates. You choose whoever you want. Doesn't matter who has asked you to go and register. Open court. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Masuku.
Sorry, Ms. Case.
Yes.
I'm not sure
Where are
if
you? All right.
I missed the response regarding the missions that are closed in Ukraine.
In Sudan. Okay. We'll
The
get
three
this-
missions.
All right.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Let's catch up that one.
No, there is no new developments in that regard. The situation is as it was last week.
CEO, the last one as we wrap up for this afternoon. Are there any resources or assistance that will be available for voters who require language interpretation, example, sign language? That is from Hlanyani Tato on the platform. Thank you very much. Are there any resources or assistance that will be available for voters who require language interpretation, example, sign language.
Well, what we will provide, it's a universal ballot template in the voting station, which assists persons that are braille literate to vote. It's not a braille ballot paper. It's a template into which a ballot paper is placed, and persons can then use that to vote. Other categories of persons who require assistance, they would be allowed to bring a family member to assist them through the voting process. Of course, the endeavor always is to get people to do it independently, which is why we have the universal ballot template for people who may be having challenges with sight and so on. But otherwise, persons in those special categories are able to bring trusted people, family members, and so on to assist them through the voting process.
Thank you so much, CEO and Dr. Masuku and James, for this afternoon's press briefing. We'll continue to share information on our social media platforms and any other platform available to South Africans. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have an excellent afternoon. We continue to register online as voters. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye to Toulouse.